Happy Friday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of You Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. I'm joined, as always, by the brains behind this operation, Mr. Matt Carlson. Matt, you are smarter than I. You made it to $2 beer night, and you only have one beer. I mean, that's saving
And
money right there.
it helps that I was driving. Trust me, I've been to those. This is a deal at the minor league hockey team near me, which they know how to draw the crowds in on Friday nights, which is cheap beer and cheap hot dogs. So, but yeah, I was driving and brought my son along, who was thoroughly entertained by the hot dogs and not the hockey. Yeah, but we're here. I'm imbibing at 11:15 local time. So good night though. It was fun.
Nice,
We don't
nice.
get out much. So.
I haven't been to a hockey game in a while. I actually haven't watched much hockey up until the last couple of weeks with the just I mean obviously I was drawn in by the Four Nations, and someone's like, dude, there's been 3 fights in the first 10 seconds. I'm like, what? This is an exhibition. What are you talking about?
It was good
And
hockey. Yeah, it was fun to watch. I'm glad they drew a lot of people in. Hopefully it sticks. But
Yep.
we'll
I'm
see.
gonna pat myself on the back here because I bet Connor McDavid anytime goal scorer last night. Was it last night? Yeah. And I had to sweat that one out to the very end, but I got some cash back for that, and then cashed that late pick five at Turfway tonight. So I'm on a
Don't let
little
them get
bit of a
hot.
little. Hey, you know what? There's something about whenever there's a trip to Vegas coming up, like all of a sudden it's just like the ADW tends to get a little fatter, and then ends up getting lost in Sin City. So um,
It's like golfing. Sometimes you're not hitting the club well. You put it back in the bag for a little bit. You just gotta threaten them. You take it back out. All of a
yeah,
sudden that club starts swinging a little bit better. It doesn't. You get rid of the slice a little bit. So
yeah.
you just gotta threaten them once in a while with someone else, and then come running back.
Yeah, I talked with Andrew about this a couple weeks ago, and I, maybe we didn't talk about it on stream or on show, but um, I've definitely been in a bit of a slump the last, I don't know, probably last 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. It's been, and like I don't know. I mean, this is always a tough time of year for me racing wise because there's just, I mean, there's Turfway. But Turfway is impossible, right? And Aqueduct is just not great usually this time of
Worse
year.
than impossible.
Yeah, it's just tough. And then Gulfstream is just not for me. Um, Santa Anita, the fields are a little too small. Oak Lawn is all dirt racing, and that's what we've been kind of focusing on drinking champagne. But Andrew's been doing much better than I have there. And so like yeah, it's just been tough, and like obviously I mean Hong Kong, I bet that pick three, and I have a couple win bets every night or every week. But yeah, it's just been tough. And like even I was talking to Caleb, who is just finally kind of getting back to normalcy, right? He like had a whole year where he was at MIT. He was moving, he's like got a new position, so he's catching up. He's working a lot, and so he's like the last couple weekends he's actually like had time to like sit around on like a Saturday and just play all day, and he's like, there's nothing to get like super excited about. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it's kind of tough, and like, it doesn't help that like I'm getting my face kicked in, while playing too. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of it. I mean, obviously, hitting a bet helps, right? I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm looking forward to firing at Oaklawn on Sunday, not tomorrow because I ain't running tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like I don't know. I'm having a hard time kind of like getting excited for anything, and I don't know. I know you and I have talked on here, right? That you've scaled back, and part of that has to do with you know kind of Saratoga, and just kind of how that kind of faded a little bit. I feel like it came back a little bit this year. I felt a little bit better about stuff this year. I think this next year is going to kind of be the make or break, and see if we have another, good meet up there. I do think they've jumped the shark with this whole Belmont thing. I saw pricing for that, and like at first I was like, "Oh, this is kind of a fun novelty. Like I should try and go to one of these." And then like Mark sent me like he bought, I don't know if he bought 2 tickets or 4 tickets for like the entire weekend, and I was just like, or for the entire week, and I'm like, they clearly don't want me there. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just tough. Like I don't know. What do you do during this time? Like, or like, or just in general when you're kind of feeling a rut. Like, are you, or even if it's just a slump, like, hey, like you're not hitting any bets. Like, what are you kind of doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think mine's probably a little bit different just because I think especially with 2 kids at home now, right? Like my play is kind of just day dependent, right? And I don't base my play around like what's going on from a racing perspective anymore. Like I tend to base my play around what's going on in my personal life now. So right, like I might look forward to firing at Oakland on a Thursday because I don't have a lot of meetings that day, or I got a day off, and or someone's watching the kids or whatever, right? Like that to me is probably more important at this point than saying like, "Hey, wow, I got a really cool Kentucky Derby prep coming up at this track. I'm going to focus on that." Right? Um, that said, I do think I've shortened up a bit, right? Like when I think back to when I first started playing, it's funny because I probably played a lot more pick fives, pick fours, right? Kind of those trying to hit a big score, trying to, extend out. And really lately, I've just kind of been playing win bets, right? Like I'll, play $10 on a horse, just that race. I won't even cap the next race, like to see what I can connect it to, right? I'll just shorten up if I hit, great. If not, whatever. And because of that, my handle's gone way down, right? And I mean, I think tomorrow's a really good example, right? Tomorrow's one of those days that we used to look forward to, right? We block off on our calendar. That's one of those days like we always joke about saying you could bet from 9 in the morning all the way till 5 the next morning, right? It starts off with Saudi Cup, could go to whatever afternoon track you want domestically, right? If Oaklawn was running, was kind of looking forward to that card. Frankly, I feel like Oaklawn's probably one of the best opportunities, even more so than Turfway now. Um, Oaklawn probably to me makes less sense than Turfway, and
Mm,
I'm just one of those people that if I see something like that, it makes me want to figure it out. That's probably bad from a money making perspective, but it scratches the itch from like that puzzle perspective that I really like about racing. And so I'm kind of disappointed they canceled tomorrow. But right, I mean, that's what I love about Hong Kong is that any given race, you could see some 40-1 win, and you're like, why the hell did that happen? Right. Whereas, like, if you watch Gulfstream, you're like, wow, 7-2. That's a huge price.
mm,
So it's I don't know, and I think I'm with you a little bit in that itch kind of hasn't been there for a little bit, but I am looking forward tomorrow to waking up, watching a bunch of Saudi Cup races, and going about my day, and then getting back to this Hong Kong card that actually has some really good racing going on. So which for whatever reason I feel like hasn't got the same hype that it normally would, considering you got like Kaying Rising running tomorrow and all that. I feel like it's just kind of a ho hum between the major days they have. So yeah, I mean that's a long-winded way of saying I don't know. I don't know how you get back to kind of busted a slump, but I feel like I've just kind of changed my play to not really have many slumps. If I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. And you know, not really getting big scores either way. So
yeah. No, makes total sense. I know. It's just like I don't know. It's been a rough couple weeks. It's nice to see one go through the hoop. Um, I said that to Andrew, I think, or no, maybe it was on this show. I said, "Nice to see one go through the hoop." He's like, "Yeah, I went through the hoop for almost 3 grand." Like, of course that's nice. Like,
yeah,
this one was a little less, but we'll take those 4 figure scores when they
there you
come.
go.
So, um, yeah, let's take a look at race 8 here. We're going to start this pick 3 with 1,400 meters, 7 furlongs, the unicorn distance. We're going to be going class 3 racing here. And we got a nice full field of 14 here. Um, yeah, I looked at this race, and obviously, I think like my eyes go to the 3 Patrick Cosmo. Is coming off a nice win last time out at 16-1. Has basically been kind of like double digit odds, except for one, he was um, yeah, he's been double digit odds the last 2 times out, and now he's drawing the rail, so he's drawn even better than he was last time. I have I have some concerns about this horse. Um, the last 2 times, like I think he got a little lucky to win last time because he kind of found trouble pretty early and kind of got like shuffled back a little bit and managed to pull it out and win by 3/4 of a length. So maybe he was just much the best that day. But two back, he kind of did the same thing and kind of found his own trouble and just kind of like I don't know, like I have a hard time taking a short price on this horse, even though he's drawing the rail now, right? So theoretically, right, he should get a better trip, right? But I don't know, like what happens if he gets boxed in again and he just finds more trouble and now he's got to be much the best once again and much the best carrying 6 additional pounds and I don't know, just I'm gonna have a fade on this horse. I think he makes sense in here, but I just think that the last 2 times at the 7 furlongs, he's found trouble, and I'm just not feeling great about him, even drawing the rail. Um, I think my top pick in this race is actually the 9 Victory Sky. Sitting in the second spot. And this is kind of a Matt horse, I think, here a little bit, right? You got a horse that's been on the six going 6 furlongs. He's stretching out here. So this is the first time going the 7 furlong distance. And the last 2 times he was, he's off it by 2 lengths, and he's got, if you look at the lone time that he was drawn inside, he ran pretty well. He ran, second by half length that time, going the 6 furlong. So maybe one that just needs the extra distance. So I kind of like him adding the extra furlong. You've seen him on the stretch out, and he's drawn very well. He's drawn the 2 post here. So I think you look at the last couple times, you see the 13 post, you see the 7 post, you see the 13 post, and now he's drawn in the 2 post here. So. Um, I could see maybe him taking a step forward. And honestly, kind of look at the horses that won the races that he was in, right? Divano in 2 of those races, and then Principorti, which are I think kind of nice horses. So maybe he's just finding a softer spot here. He's drawn better. So I really like the number 9 Victory Sky in here. And then the low weight Mr. Energia here, number 14, coming off a win. Obviously, Zach was aboard, and Zach is obviously out injured right now. But you get Karis Teton, right? And you get a much improved draw here, right? You're drawn into the 6 post as opposed to out in the 14 post. Obviously, you are up in class, but coming up in class means you shed 13 pounds. So better draw, shedding 13 pounds, coming in off a win. And honestly, if you look at his last 5, I mean, hasn't really run a bad race, right? I mean, he's basically either won or been within a length and a half of the winner. So, he's been right there. Obviously, like I said, we're coming up in class, but I mean, even from his race 5 back, he's over 10 pounds lighter than that. So I do think that that 10 pounds, I mean, 10 pounds is definitely, I think, worth a length. I think when you get to like 3, 4, 5 pounds, maybe that's not as big of a difference. But when you're talking about double digit difference, like, yeah, I think that's definitely worth a length at a certain point. So I like the 14 here. Getting Karis Teton and getting a slightly better draw and coming in here off the win. So I'm gonna use the 14 and the 9 both as A's. Matt, where did you land?
Yeah, pretty similar on those two. Actually, I think it kind of felt like you read my notes actually on both those horses, so I'm very proud of you. For Victory
I'm
Sky.
learning. I'm
Yeah,
learning.
look at that. I mean, we're gonna end up just being on all the same horses then, probably because of you're listening to my BS that doesn't actually hit. But yeah, no, I mean, I like Victory Sky. I think my one knock on Victory Sky is he looks a little bit slow on paper, but I do think, I agree with everything you said. He's kind of closed into some slow paces. He's had a bad run of draws, and realistically, I do think he could potentially show something here. So yeah, I like that horse. Probably uses a B for me. And same with Mr. Energia, right? I mean, that horse has run really impressively, and has a lot of factors kind of going in its favor, right? Like you said, gets low weight. Not only has been closing, but has been closing into some very forward fields. Like if you look at horses who have won those races against Mr. Energia, they've kind of wired, right? Like he's closing on a horse that has, maintained a lead. And to me, like not only is he closing, he's closing against the track doing that then. So yeah, I mean a lot to love there. The other thing that I did like there, and actually one other horse that I'll probably use because of this, because I'm not really sure what's going on, is Karis Teton getting on because in the one other horse that he was on in this race that he actually ran pretty well on last time was the 8 Juno Pride. And I wasn't entirely sure where to go with it because of that. Juno Pride has obviously been an incredibly consistent horse. He's never missed a board. Even on the class step up last time, you know, ran really well, right? Ran a good second, kind of drawn poorly, stepping up into class three, etc. Drops a couple pounds here, all signs would kind of point to being like, hey, this horse, should kind of continue its good run of form. We don't know how good this horse is yet. I'm really just not sure, why the jockey move, right? Like, is this Karis Teton getting off and going to the 14? Um, Brent Abdullah was riding in that race. He actually rode another horse who will run in race 9 in Beauty Crescent, who was like an 0 for 15 lifetime. And it just, I don't know. I'm not really sure what's happening there. Kind of, and maybe I shouldn't win the games because of that. But I do still think this horse is a use just based on the consistency, right? I mean, this horse, when you have a horse that's never missed a board and, frankly, has never missed a Quinella, 4 to 5 races, I do think you do have to use those. Whether that slots in as an A or a B, I think I'm waiting to see what the price looks like there. Whether I use, kind of how I use it. I think I prefer the 14 to this 8, but yeah, I do think it's still got to be on my ticket. And then the only other horse that I want to use, that was an angle that I always will come back to and should have come back to on Wednesday, was the 5 Joy of Spring. It's no secret I love layoffs here, right? I think horses coming in off layoffs generally run really well. That said, I think I usually love them because they're running off of layoffs because something happened, right? They ran off of injury or something along those lines. And in this case, this horse I don't think was ever injured. He's never been out of training. He's still run barrier trials. He's still run track works. He's been, swimming, etc. So I have no idea why this horse has not run since July. If there's a good reason, I'd love to see it. I looked, I could not find anything. The other thing, right? The trials have looked terrific on this horse, right? And so I don't know. Maybe this is one where he ends up getting overbet because he's moving kind of way up in class. He's moving pretty far up in weight, right? He's jumping from a win on a different surface, on a different track. He's moving from Happy Valley up to Sha Tin, and you know, he's picking up class and he's going off as a 5 in a class higher, coming off a, 8 months, 7-month layoff. So I don't really know. Maybe to me, if this one gets overbet, maybe he's a toss entirely. Um, But I do think if he gets lost in the board, then it's one that you have to kind of watch out for and use just because, again, you see a horse trialing well off of a long layoff. You don't know how good that horse is going to run. And usually they get lost in the board enough where you do want to play them in their overlays here. So I'll be pretty wide in this race, right? Between the 8, the 14, the 5, and the 9. And I probably either have to work on an order or just kind of use them all equally in a ticket and move on from there.
Yeah, I'm actually and I think this might be a good we don't often, I don't think, do this all that often. So let me stop sharing this and I'll share my entire screen here. And sorry. right? So what's kind of cool about Hong Kong here, right? And sorry, I have a real zoomed out thing here, but just talking like what Matt was mentioning, right? He's like, hey, like this horse has just been he's consistently working. I don't think he's been hurt. And you're like, well, how do you figure that out? Well, all right, I come to Hong Kong's website. I'm here on race 8. I come down and let's look at Joyous Spring. We get a nice little pop up here, and right, we see his runs. Let's take a look at his vet records. There's nothing. Interesting. So it looks like there's no, like you said, maybe he's just not been hurt. You look here, he's been going between Chung Fa and Hong Kong, so he's been still moving. And let's look at all his track works. He's been trotting, he's been swimming, and yeah, I mean, you can even go to look at some of his barrier trials if you want right here, and you get the video, right? I mean, North America, eat your heart out, right? We can just sit here and we can watch this barrier trial, and we can sit here and watch how we kind of ran.
The data really is amazing with this stuff. So, um, with that comes a very savvy crowd that probably sees the exact stuff I just told you. So again, I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery what price that horse goes off at, but if he gets lost, I think take advantage, right?
I will
Because
say he did win his last barrier trial, so
that's why I said they look
if
good.
you are,
You can watch
yeah,
those.
he looked good. So yeah, that might be one I got to add. Um, Let me stop sharing here and reshare. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put a little B here so I remember. Um, but yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you can do on the website. That you can't necessarily do. Just straight from the PPs. And yeah, all the information is there for you. And honestly, too, like obviously we do our show, and we appreciate everyone who watches, everyone who comments and responds. If you're watching right now, make sure you like and subscribe. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, make sure you're signed up there. And hey, if you're not on one or the other, do both. Even if you don't watch it, just helps us out, right? Or just even if you just set it to download, right? You don't have to listen, just download it. That's fine. Um, but yeah, man, I've been we need to at some point when we'll maybe take a day and we'll just record us just going like real in depth with some of this stuff and like take a look at like legit maybe do like 2 races over like an hour, right? And just like jump into all the stuff you can see on the site, because if you are like that kind of nerd and you want to jump in, I mean, there's a ton of stuff there. Like me personally, I like this. I like looking at Speed Pro, and then yeah, I'll look at the notes of the barrier trials on Speed Pro. I'll watch them from the site if it's a first time starter. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there. So um, yeah,
Yeah.
anything else you want to talk about in that race or
No, I mean just to that point, right? I love that stuff. So if anyone ever, feel free to reach out to me, ask questions, right? I mean, I love clicking through all that stuff and all the different areas you could find. I mean, half the reason I built my data the way I did is just to get to that stuff easier, right? Um, it's not really doing anything special other than just taking all the information they have and making it easier for me to find. So
race 9, another 7 furlong race, 1,400 meters. The City Insurance Services Handicap. Are you legally allowed to bet on this race?
uh, I hope so. We'll find out. So
Full field of 14 here. And I thought this was another tough race. I think when we got online, I kind of said like, this is I don't know, this race is just like I don't know, it felt like a middle finger in the middle of this pick three. But Matt, where did you land here?
yeah, I mean, to emphasize your point of how a middle finger this is, my lone A is Andrea Eddie drawn in the 14 post. So, yeah, that's what I thought of this race is that I'm going against everything that I would normally do to bet on the 13 Stellar Swift. Look, this horse has crapped out on the draw lottery 3 times, and that's not a joke. He has drawn the 14 post for a third successive race, which is like about how my craps tables go in Vegas, right? I mean, just unreal bad luck of draws. So, you're asking why the hell would I take a horse drawn out in 14? Why the hell would I take Andrea Atzeni, who I curse on this show probably more so than I should? And I would respond to that saying, I'm schizophrenic and my handicapping. I do this every single week. You should listen to the show more intently. Um, Two things stuck out, right? One, yes, it's Andrea Atzeni. He's coming from Alex Pouchan. Alex Pouchan rode so poorly in Hong Kong that he's no longer allowed to ride here, right? He was like 1 for 90 or something like that. And when half the colony got hurt, he still was not called back, right? They flew in other jockeys rather than continue to ride Alex Pouchan here. So Andrea Atzeni is a huge step up from that. The second thing I note is that we are running on the A rails. So draw matters a little bit less, right? That horse previously, when it was breaking from 14, that was just breaking from 14, but was breaking from 14 on the C+3. And why that matters, right? When the rails are further out, if you're caught in the three path or beyond, when the rails are further out, you have that much longer to run, right? It's just geometry, right? Circumference of a circle. If you're further out from that, diameter of a circle is further around pi r squared, or sorry, pi times diameter, whatever, right? You're running that much farther. Consult your high school textbooks. So both of those things, I think, give me a little bit of confidence that this horse can run a better race. And I do think, aside from those last two races, this horse is head and shoulders above the rest of this field. It is a weak field. And I think because of that, right, like this horse can work a trip and can win, can show the ability that it has. And if it doesn't win this race, I'm going to ship it anytime it draws inside of like the 11 post going forward. But that's really where I want to go, I think, here is Stellar Swift, even though it's got a jockey I don't like, even though it's breaking from, kind of left field. Um, I will use a couple other horses in here, right? I do think this is a tough race. I don't think I could just single in this race by any means. The other two that stuck out, I do want to use Tamara Blitz on like horse 7. Again, I think has looked okay, right? Kind of had a long layoff from last March. Has run 3 times since. I think you can argue that that horse kind of is continuously improving, and maybe can keep progressing. Maybe has enough on this field that's weak enough. Has kind of closed into some slow paces. I don't know what kind of pace you get here either, but has maybe shown enough where you could say, okay, it can show something here. So I'll use Tamara Blitz as a B. And then I also want to use the 5 Kempis. And I think, again, you see Jimmy Orman aboard. Jimmy Orman is a new jock here, right? He's an Australian jock that's kind of flown in, again, to fill in for the jockeys that are hurt. I do give him a little bit of a chance than most jockeys, right? He's a very accomplished Australian rider. And I do think those guys deserve a little more credit, right? When you see a Euro jock come in, like from France or UK or whatever, right? They're used to running routes. They are not good at turf sprints. Australians do one thing really well, right? They run turf sprints. That's what they are known for. That is their specialty, right? They very much mimic Hong Kong, right? That's their bread and butter. So I at least give him a better shot here. I think you could arguably toss the last race just based on draw and based on the trip, right? Had to take back from gate 10. The ride from Hugh Bowman was not great. And
Another
so,
Australian jockey.
yeah, I say that, hey, but eh,
He rode Winks.
you can only do so much, right? It happened, right? It's not Hugh Bowman's fault that the horse had to take back from a bad draw and try and work a trip and he couldn't, right? Whatever. I think there's enough unknowns here where you'll get a price, right? You'll get a very very large chance at this, and hey, maybe, right? I'm not going to say he will win, but I'm saying look at the horses he's lost to, right? And you know kind of how he's run. I do think there's a little bit of a chance to catch a bomb here. So I'm willing to kind of take that risk with a new jock, with a horse that, you know, kind of gets muddied up on paper. So most of my money will be through Stellar Swift and the 13. I'll use the 5 and the 7 as B's in here. And like you said, hopefully we can just get through this one because I don't know. This is not easy.
Yeah, I went a little bit different than you here. I have two A's in here, and I think my top pick is going to be the 12 solid win. Wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't a horse that maybe goes off kind of short here. Um, just because I don't know, I feel like this race is a little devoid of form. I mean, I think obviously the two winning gold, has got a win last time out, although it was the lone disqualification of the meet where he got put up, and I mean, I thought it was a bit of a it was a bit of a soft DQ.
Don't want to talk
Sorry,
about it.
Matt.
Don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It seemed like they like bumped like right before the wire, and like I don't know, it was ridiculous. Either way, I mean I think the horse just kind of lucked out in that one, and is drawn out a little bit more. Is gaining 6 pounds here, and I don't know. I think he's going to be bet a little bit in this spot, so I just was against. Um, but the 12 solid win, he's drawn on the rail here, and he drew okay last time, um, and ran a solid fourth first up in class three after winning in class four. So I don't think he's really in over his head here. Had a little bit of trouble at the start. I don't know how much that really affected him, but it's coming right back here. Is getting a better post, and you might say like, oh well, like hey, um, you know why like there's a jock change or something, but I don't know. I just like the fact this horse is drawing the rail. And like I said, I thought he ran fine last time. I think he just got a little unlucky. I mean, look at those closing fractions. Those are really really good. So I really like the 12 solid win here. He might end up going off as your favorite. So I don't think necessarily there's a ton of value here, but like if you're getting like 3-1, 4-1 on this horse, I mean, I think that's probably fair. Um, the 11 Brilliant Express coming here in off a win, and once again, this is another horse that's coming up in class, and this is a horse that's just run really well at 1400 meters. You look at this track and distance, you got to win in 2 seconds in four starts, and yeah, I just think this is a 7 furlong horse. He's run very well the last two times out at 7 furlongs, and it sucks. Hugh Bowman can't ride this horse. This horse is only carrying 123 pounds. Hugh Bowman can't get under 124. So, um, they had to make a change. They get Alexi Bedell, which, I mean, I guess with Zach not riding, like it makes everyone else look better. So, like, I think Alexi Bedell without Zach here is probably better than the 5% jock. He's probably maybe closer to like a 8 or 9, maybe 10% jock. So, um, yeah, um, I'm not too worried. I don't think here. So but I think this is a horse that's coming in good form. Did draw a little outside here, but it's another horse that's shedding 9 pounds coming into here. So, um, yeah, I really like the 11 Brilliant Express, and I like the 12 solid win in this spot. Anything else on this race?
Just hope we get through it. It's
Gosh.
not an easy one.
I mean, I thought after those two horses, if I was gonna use like bees, I probably needed like four additional horses in
Yeah,
there,
no, same.
and I was just like, you know what, you know, just gonna hold my nose and try
At
and
some
get
point, you
through
got
it.
to take,
But
you got to make a ticket, right? Like, can't bet them all.
no.
So
Um, race 10, 6 furlongs, 1,200 meters, class 3 racing, a City Investment Services handicap. City loves Hong Kong. Um, and yeah, this is another horse. This is another race where I kind of landed on lower weight horses. Um, I think the number 10 Triumphant Moore is very very interesting in this spot. This is the horse with four starts, two wins, and a fourth, but is kind of like one of those pattern horses. It looks like. It looks like he fires a good one and then just kind of fires an okay race, fires a good one and just kind of fires an okay race. And I mean, if you're going by that pattern, I mean, this next one should be the good one, right? and he's drawn the best that he's drawn. I think he's kind of versatile. You know, I think he likes to be forwardly placed, but you know, you look at the race three back, and that wasn't necessarily all that bad. You know, kind of was eighth by 4.5 lengths. Ended up losing a bit of ground, and then made up a bit, right? So I think this is a horse that can sit off a little bit. Maybe not necessarily sitting eighth by 6.5 lengths, but I think if this horse is sitting like 3 or 4 lengths off, I think he's in with a pretty big shot. So I like the 10 Triumphant more. Obviously the 14 Yi Chung Glory here. Um, I mean Zach rode this one first up, won pretty convincingly by 2 1/4 lengths. Was bet off the board that day, and now it's second up here. I mean, this is probably going to be another short price horse, right? Second start of its career, and right, okay. Well, unfortunately, Zach's not available, so we get Karis Teton. You know, because this horse is carrying too little weight, and Karis is the only guy you can get, right? Magic Man's not here anymore, right? That was his move. You know, he would take a lot of these low weight horses because he could get these low weights. But um, right, this is just probably the hot horse that's gonna shoot up a little bit in ranks until he can't anymore. So um, I think he's gonna be tough in this spot too. So I'm gonna use those two as A's, the 10 and the 14. Um, I'm gonna use the 9 Lopan Spirit as a B here, and I don't really think this is a horse that's done anything necessarily wrong. I mean, this is a horse that I think has run uh, a couple of decent races, and I feel like you're seeing a little bit of improvement. You've seen a little bit of improvement over the last couple races, and I think maybe it's just the cutback, right? Because if you look at this horse, right, he's got 2 wins and 11 starts. And both of those wins were here at Sha Tin going 1,200 meters. In fact, if you look at his record at this track and distance, he's got 2 wins, 2/3 in 5 starts, right? So I think this is just like the right distance for this horse. Maybe the class is maybe this is the horse that needs to drop down a class. Maybe he needs to go back to class 4. But I just think that getting him back to the 1,200 meters, giving him another run here at the 1,200 meters is what he wants to do. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that that last race was pretty good. I kind of missed the start a little bit, and had to kind of work out a bit of a trip and just missed third by half a length. So yeah, I like the 9 low pan spirit here. I have it as my lone B in this spot, but I definitely think that he's in here with a chance. I think if he was drawn a little bit better, this would be an A for me. But being out in the 13 post, this is another one. We talked about being unlucky with the draws. Has drawn the 12 post, the 13 post, the 11 post, and now the 13 post again. So I think if he was drawn a little bit more inside, I'd be a little bit more interested. But I'm gonna still use this one as a B. Number 9, Low Pan Spirit, along with the 10, Triumphant More, and the 14, Yi Chung Glory. Matt, where did you land?
So on paper, I think I probably just want one horse in here, and I think it's the 14 Yichun Glory,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think this horse had such an impressive debut. I don't think this field is anything to write home about. I do in this race have a note on King Miles, like, bet this horse again when he finally gets a good draw. He's drawn in the 14 post again. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I have no idea if that horse is washed up or not. But you can't bet it where he's out at. He's shown that he doesn't like wide draws, and you got another one. So to me, this race kind of flows through the 14, right? This horse should go well. It'll be very short, like you said, but I think in this race you just have to take that. The only other horse that I do want in here is probably my go-to simp bet, right? And that's James McDonald is running in this race, right? He's flying from the Saudi Cup tomorrow to run 2 races here, right? One's on Voyage Bubble, and then the second one is on this 4 Lucky 8. And I don't think he's flying here just to hop up on anything, but also in this field, I would probably bet him on almost anything, right? Like I think realistically, this is not a strong field, and I do think James McDonald is just better than these jockeys, and I'd probably bet him on a mule in this race. So I will use Lucky 8 as my simp bet as well. And those are the only two horses I really want in here are the 4 and the 14. So this one I think is pretty straightforward to me. If I'm awake as I usually am at 4:30 in the morning and betting, I'll probably, you know, place a win bet through one or both of them or a very healthy Quinella between the two of them and, you know, carry it home, hopefully. So,
Nice. Do you have a bet or another bet in here that you want to talk about in this card?
so I do want to talk about race 5.
Okay.
And I think I've had on my radar that regardless of circumstance, I wanted to bet against Kaying Rising next time he ran, right? Not that I think Kaying Rising will lose, and you're probably all scoffing at the screen right now, like, how the hell are you going to bet against this horse? Which you might be right. Um, but look, I think when you see the pattern, right? Anytime you run a track record, next out you saw that horse bounce a bit, right? Not bounce to the extent where he even lost, because this is your best, sprinter in the world, like undoubtedly the best sprinter in the world. But you saw some vulnerability there. And then next up, he ran another track record. So to me, this horse is due for another bounce, right? You can't just run that fast and come back and kind of continue that upward trajectory. At least I don't think so, right? Couple that with, I mean, I'm almost disappointed that there's so many factors against this horse right now that I think there might be a chance that he doesn't take as much money as I think he will. Because look, this horse is drawn in the 9 post of a 9 horse field. He had Zach up. Zach's not here. He is running 1,400 meters. I don't think he's suited for 1,400 meters. I think 1,200 is where he wants to be. I think all of those things stacked against this horse indicate that if you're ever going to beat Kaying Rising around one turn, this is your chance. And to me, if the public goes with this horse and bets it down to 1 to 9, like I think you will, this is your opportunity to make money somewhere else. Um, my go-to pick to go against Kiting Rising, although I'd probably take a couple other ones in here too, will be the 8 Patch of Theta. I think he's really been running well, but I do think a full mile is just too long for this horse, and I always prefer a horse that's cutting back versus one that's extending out. I think the record at 1,400 speaks for itself, right? He's never missed a board running 1,400 meters. He's 2 for 2 running on the A course here. I think he'll still be a big price, and I think you have to take a swing at this horse because of all the reasons I said. Right? He's not drawn much better, but hey, I don't think draw is the main factor in this race. There's only 9 horses going, so my biggest win bet in here, I think, will be on Patch of Theta. I'll, only because I do think horses like I think like Helios Express, who finished second to Kaying Rising last out, will probably take too much money for a deep closer in a 9 horse field, things like that. I I I don't know. I still want to bet Mugen, but I shouldn't. Right, that horse I think is washed up with between all the travel and just hasn't shown enough this. So I kind of
And
defaulted. I
Blake
think to
Shin.
Patch of Theta. Yeah, who knows with that, right? I mean, maybe he's good. I have no idea. He has not shown all that well here, but hey, I mean, you know, maybe. So, but no, I think Patch of Theta to me is the one I do want in here. And yeah, I mean, again, I don't. It's not that I dislike Kaying Rising, right? I think, like I said, Kaying Rising is the best horse in the world. So it's weird for me to say that my best bet is somewhere else against that horse. But just from a value perspective, like I said, if you're ever going to beat this horse, this is your race. So you see those opportunities, I think you got to take them.
I actually liked another horse in this race that was not Kaying Rising. So I wonder if maybe we try and break this beer bet tie here. Yeah.
Well, there's no breaking ties. I mean, it's just upping shipping cost at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly. Right. Yeah, we're just gonna yeah,
The beers
exactly.
increase. They're additive. They're not. So
Yeah. I actually really like Beauty Eternal in the spot. I think Beauty Eternal makes a ton of sense in here. This is the speed horse. This is this is a horse I think that has done his best running at the 7 furlongs at the 1,400 meters. And, I just think he's drawn well, right? He's drawn in the 4 post. I was a little, he's got a better draw than Kaying Rising, right? And Kaying Rising, I think, doesn't want to go this far. And I just think that a horse like Beauty Eternal, I think this might be the time to kind of, I agree with you. I think this might be the time to kind of turn the tables on it. And you shook your head when I said Beauty Eternal because I'm guessing that that's probably like the other horse that you probably
Yeah,
looked at in
yeah.
this
He
spot.
he
Yeah,
has basically the same exact things that I spoke of. Like track and distance is really good.
yeah.
Course record is 2 for 2. But he's got a Zenny aboard, so the lead weight I think is what held me back from betting that horse. But yeah,
I mean,
it's another one that I looked at very intently. So
yeah. All right, beer bet.
sure, let's do it.
All right, cool. We'll get that. We'll get that
I I,
immortalized in.
I kind of owe you after taking like what a 7-5 last week as a beer bet.
Yeah, I
So
know. I just got. I mean, it is what it is. I agreed to it, so it's my own fault. Um, I went to race one, and when it comes to like races, this happens often with maiden races, right? You look at a maiden race, and you're like, these horses all stink. And so when that happens, you can take the new shooter. And I think in this spot, you got to just take the new shooter, the 8 Manaphy. Um, granted, I just already trashed Blake Shin's character, but this is the horse has been trialing well. First time, up here. I don't know if you have any first time starter stats for Mr. Mo. I think you said you don't keep him, but he's having an okay meet, right? He's winning at just under 10% here. So maybe you're a little concerned that not one of the other jocks didn't get aboard here on this first time starter, but yeah, I just like I'm looking at this and a lot of these horses I just don't think have been like necessarily all that close. So and like I mean even when you look at it, I mean Karis Teton's on the 3XL Wong Choi, and I mean he's out in the 14 post, and I don't really want anything to do with that horse. So um yeah, I don't know. I like the first time starter in this spot. I'm actually not really sure what price I'm gonna get. I think it's gonna be tough. I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty short, but I don't know, man. I would probably take like 4-1, 5-1 on that horse. It's funny, right? I say that like in American racing, that's like, oh, so like a middle price. Like that's a short price at Hong Kong, right? Like that's I honestly think probably like 9-2 or better, and I'm like firing, for sure. But and luckily this is the first race, right? So I can actually like stay up and watch this one. But yeah, I like the 8 Manaphy here. I don't know. You got any guesses on what kind of price that horse goes off at?
I think you actually get a decent price on this horse because I do think people like betting horses like Leslie. Etalon Or, I think, takes a fair amount of money, has actually run pretty well, but that horse is like allergic to winning. Trust me, I know firsthand.
Hmm.
I think when you see names like that, uh, typically, right, like I do think the first just kind of get lost. And so I guess you probably get 8-1 if, just spitballing, right? You
Yeah,
can
honestly, the only horse I'm kind of scared of is the 7, Seamus Storm, because
Eh,
he ran pretty well on debut, and now he's going from the 13 post to the 1 post. So like, I mean, I get it, right? Boat, your favorite boat anchor in Ed Zenny's there, but um, I thought that was kind of like maybe the only other horse. So maybe like this is like I don't know. This is nice because I can watch the board here, but I would definitely take anything above probably like 9-2 on 8. And maybe this is a race that like we take a look at the Quinellas, right? We see maybe what a 7-8 Quinellas paying. If you're getting 10-8-1, 10-1, something like that on it, maybe you toss that in too, because you get your horse home, and if you don't, you kind of got the little backup there, like if you run second, to I think the other kind of what's going to be probably a short price horse, but um, yeah, it's kind. I mean, I'll take a shot there in race one at least. That's gonna do it for us on You've Got to Be Sha Tinning Me. Check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Matt the Brain Carlson is at Slow and Steady. You can catch his full card picks with fair odds. People love fair odds. And he'll have that up on his Twitter. And yeah, we'll have a little graphic up for our stuff as well. But Good luck, everybody. Let's make some money. Like and subscribe. Hit all the buttons. We'll see you.